Let's start with problem 1. What is 10% of 470? So for this, we just do 0.1 times 470, which would be equal to 47. So number 1 would be B, 47. 4x plus 6 equals 18. Which equation has the same solution as the given equation? For us, we just minus 6 on both sides, so it would be 4x equal to minus 6, which would give us 12, which is the same as option C. So we'd have C for number 2. The total cost in dollars to rent a surfboard consists of a $25 service fee and a $10 per hour rental fee. A person rents a surfboard for 2 hours and intends to spend a maximum of $75 to rent the surfboard. Which inequality represents the situation? So the first thing we'd read is that it costs a $25 service fee. So no matter how many hours we go, we need to pay $25. So it'd be 25 plus. And now let's move on to the next part of the question. It would say $10 per hour rental fee. So we put 10T. For base for each hour, we need to pay $10 plus the $25 in service fee. A person rents a surfboard for 2 hours and intends to spend a maximum of $75 to rent the surfboard, which means this part should not be equal to more than $75. It'd be 75. And this equation is the same as option D. So to question 4. The function g is defined by gx equals to x squared plus 9. For which value of x is gx equals to 25? Since there's gx here and gx here, we put 25 equals to x squared plus 9. And we just solve this equation. So we subtract 9 on both sides, which would equal x squared equals 16. And then we'd square root on both sides for it to become x is equal to 4. So this would be option A. Each face of a 14-sided die is labeled with a number from 1 through 14, with a different number appearing on each face. If the die is rolled one time, what is the probability of rolling a 2? So there's 14 sides, so at the bottom, the denominator would be out of 14, which matches up with all the options. And if the die is rolled one time, what is the probability of rolling a 2? 2 is only appearing one time throughout the 14 sides, and the dice is only rolled one time. So the probability of rolling a 2 is 1 out of 14, because there's 14 different numbers that you possibly get. So it'd be A. So it appears this to be a FAQ. So a printer produces posters at a constant rate of 42 posters per minute. At what rate in posters per hour does the printer produce the posters? So there's 60 min in 1 hour. So for this, we would just do 60 times 42 which would equal 2,520, because for each minute there's 42 posters. Let's move on to number 7. The function f is defined by the equation fx equals 7x plus 2. What is the value of fx when x is equal to 4? For this, we just plug in the value of x is equal to 4 into the equation fx equals 7x plus 2. So you do 7 in parentheses 4 plus 2, which would equal 28 plus 2, and the final answer would be 30. So number 8. A teacher is creating an assignment worth 70 points. The assignment will consist of questions worth 1 point and questions worth 3 points. Which equation represents the situation where x represents the number of 1 point questions and y represents the number of 3 point questions? So for each number of 1 point questions, we get a value of 1. So say that, for example, there's 2 1 point questions, we get 2 points if you get both of those correct. So this would be 1x. And similarly, this is how it is for the number of 3 point questions. So if there's each question worth 3 points, it would be 3 times y. And we put all this equal to 70 points, and 70 points is the total amount of points you can get in this assignment. and this is the same as option D. Right triangles LMN and PQR are similar, where L and M correspond to P and Q respectively. Angle M has a measure of 53 degrees. What is a measure of angle Q? So let's draw the triangles. It's important to note that both these triangles are right triangles. So we do L, M, and N, and in the same order we have to draw label PQR. So P, Q, and R. And since they're similar, angle P would correspond to angle L, angle N will correspond to angle R, angle M would correspond to angle Q. So let's draw out the right triangle part of this. It's important to note that in the question it says angle M has a measure of 53 degrees. So this angle would be 53. And important to note that angle Q would also have 53 degrees. And to figure out angle L and angle P, we'd have to do 90 degrees minus 53, because in a triangle, right triangle, there's 180 degrees, and 90 is taken up from the angle N, and 53 is taken up for angle M. So we would just end up doing 90 minus 53, which would equal to 37, which is an option problem A. To double check our work, we just do 37 plus 90 plus 53, which would equal 180 degrees, which is correct according to the definition of a triangle. Now let's move on to number 10. Y equals negative 3x and 4x plus y equals 15. The solution to the given system of equations is x comma y. What is the value of x? So we already have what y equals to, and y is equal to negative 3x. So we can plug this into the other equation. So do 4x minus 3x equals 15, which would be x is equal to 15. And that's the answer to the question. What is the value of x? Which is option C. Which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model for the data shown in the scatter plot? We can do the process of elimination for this problem. As we know, it should reach the y-axis at around 10. So we can remove option A and option C because of the fact that the constant would say it would reach as a negative 10, which is not possible in this equation. Now let's look at the slope. We can tell the slope is going negative because it first goes negative and then it goes positive, which in the end a negative and a positive would equal negative for the slope. So the answer to this problem would be B. The graph of y equals fx is shown, where the function f is defined by fx equals ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d, and a, b, c, and d are constants. For how many values of x does fx equal 0? We can just look in the equation and find out whenever the equation touches the x-axis, because that would mean the y value would be 0. And it touches it at 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point. So therefore, this equation has 3 values of x. Just move on to question 13. Vivian bought party hats and cupcakes for $71. Each package of party hats cost $3, and each cupcake costs $1. If Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats, how many cupcakes did she buy? So there's a total of $71, and we know that each package of party hats costs $3 and each cupcake costs $1. So we'll just make the equation for this. So we'll put the number of package of party hats as x, so it'd be 3x, plus each cupcake being 1, so it'd be 1x. If Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats, how many cupcakes did she buy? So we know that x is equal to the amount of party hats, and we know that she bought 10. So do 71 times 3 times 10 plus x. So that would be 71 equal to 30 plus x, which would end up being x is equal to 41. So she bought 41 cupcakes. Let's move on to question 14. Z squared plus 10z minus 24 equals 0. We can just do the quadratic formula for this question. So we do minus b plus minus b squared is 4ac and 2a. This is a good formula to remember if in case you ever start freaking out and you forget how to do the grouping, or say for example any other type of method to solve a quadratic equation. So let's plug this in. The constant for this is a, the constant for this is b, the constant for this is c. So we do minus 10 plus minus b squared. B squared would be 10 squared, which equals 100, minus 4, the constant of a would be 1, so it would be 4a, and then in parentheses minus 24, and all this over 2, because since a is equal to 1. Let's draw the answer for over here. So it'd be minus 10, we'll just do the positive side for this case, so we'll do plus, and if we do 100, and this minus minus becomes a positive, and 24 times 4 would be 96, and 96 plus 100 would be root 196, and all this would be over 2. And if you simplify this further, it would be minus 10 plus 14, sorry for the messy handwriting, all divided by 2. So minus 10 plus 14 divided by 2 would be 4 over 2, and therefore 2. This is the answer for number 14. Bacteria were growing in a liquid growth medium. There were 300,000 cells per milliliter during an initial observation. The number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. How many cells per milliliter will there be 15 hours after the initial observation? Okay, so we know it doubles every 3 hours, and we're trying to find out how much there will be after every 15 hours after the initial observation. So we can do 15 divided by 3, which would equal 5, to find out how many times the initial amount of observation of cells would double. So it would double 5 times. So we could do 300,000 times 2 to the power of 5. This is the normal formula you would need for almost a lot of different problems. This would be the value of the initial observation. This would be the value of how much it would be increasing by, and in this case it would be doubling every 3 hours. And the exponent would be how many times it would be doubling. So for the answer for this would be 300,000 times 32, which, if I put in the calculator, 1 second, be 9.6 million, which would be option D. Now let's move on to number 16. Which expression is equivalent to 6 times 8 to the power of 8 times y to the power of 2 plus 12 times x squared plus times y squared? Let's start off with expression A. We know that this wouldn't be a problem because we wouldn't be able to have two different parts of the equation than addition. Since there's no addition sign here, or negative sign, or anything to separate this, we could cancel this out. And the same we could do for option B, because there's no two parts of the equation. So now it's just between option C and option D, which would be 6x squared times y squared times x to the power of 6. So this means we would just add the exponent value for this and this, which would become 6x to the power of 8 times y squared plus, and now we have to do the second part of the equation, which is 2 times this outside value, which would end up being 2 times 6, which is 12. So 12 times x squared times y squared. And then this would be, we know that this is equal to the original equation. So we know the answer for this problem would be C. A neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3934. The equation 2x plus 35y equals 3934 represents the situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? Now let's take a look at option C and D. The total number of trees in the park and the total number of trees in the residential area. They're talking about for option X and option Y, it'd be the total amount. But in a neighborhood, there could be a wide, different variety of how many trees are in the park or residential area. And they're talking about 2 hectares specifically and 35 hectare. And option C and D, it doesn't talk anything about how much it is per hectare. So you'd erase option C and option D. Now it's just between option A and option B. Now it becomes easier. We can obviously remove option B because we know that 2x is in the context of the 2-hectare park, not the average number of trees in the residential area, which is 35y. So the answer would be option A. Now let's move on to question 18. The graph shows the relationship between the number of shares of stock from company A, X, and the number of shares of stock from company B, Y, that Simon can purchase. Which equation represents this relationship? Now it's simple. We just have to make an equation from the graph. So we know that the y-intercept would be 40. So it would be anything plus 40. And we know a point is 60, 0. So we could figure out that, actually, let's simpler here. Okay. So we know the y-intercept is 40, so we do plus 40. And we know that, so plus 40 in the equation y equals mx plus b. So we know b would be 40. And we can use the point 60, 0 for this. So the point 0, 0 becomes the y value. So it'd be 0 plugged into n, which we're trying to find the slope. In parentheses, 60 plus b, which is 40. So it'd be 60m is equal to negative 40. And then m is equal to negative 2 over 3 simplified. So off the bat, we can already erase option A and option C because the slopes are positive. Now let's simplify option B. So we do 12y equals to negative 8x plus 480. So we simplify this and it would become y negative 8 over 12, which can be simplified to negative 2 over 3, plus 40. This matches up with what we got before, with the slope being negative 2 over 3 and the b, the constant, the y-intercept being 40. So in this situation, b would be our answer. Question 19. Circle A has a radius of 3n and circle B has a radius of 129n, where n is a positive constant. The area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A? So we know the area of a circle would be pi r squared. So for a, we would do pi times 3n squared, which would equal 9 pi times n squared. Now let's do it for b. So we do pi times, wow, this is a big number, so 129 n squared, which would equal to 129 pi, actually not 129, my mistake, it'd be 129 squared, which would be 16,641 pi n squared, which we could say we could cross out pi and n squared for both parts because we're trying to find out how many times larger is the area of circle B than circle A. So we would just make a ratio. So it'd be 16,641 divided by 9. Which would give us 1,849, which is the same as option D. Let's move on to the next one. The frequency summarizes the 57 data values in the dataset. What is the maximum data value in the dataset? So we're looking at an individual point. Let's look at this. The maximum data value would mean the highest quantifiable amount of data, amount for each thing. So in this, we can technically ignore the frequency side, and we just have to focus on the highest data value. And we can find out that it would be 14 in this situation, as the frequency is also not equal to 0. So the maximum data value would be 14 in this case. A circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoints 2, 4, and 2, 14. An equation of the circle is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 9 squared equals r squared, where r is a positive constant. What is the value of r? This is how I would do this problem. I would just try to somewhat imagine it in my brain. And it would be 2, 4 being around here, and I know that's in the same x value. It would just be right above with 2, 14. I know this doesn't look like a circle, but let's try to imagine it. So we know these are the endpoints of a diameter, and a diameter would equal 2r. And we can figure out that since this is 2, 4, and this, this is 2, 14, the distance between these 2 points would just be 10. So the diameter would be 10. So we could do 10 is equal to 2r, and then r would equal to 5. And the value of r would be 5. 1 to 22. The measure of angle r is 2 pi at 3. 2 pi over 3 radians. The measure of angle t is pi over 12 radians, greater than the measure of angle r. So we know the angle t would just be angle r, which is 2 pi over 3 radians, plus 5 pi over 12 radians. Simplified, it would be 8 pi over 12 plus 5 pi over 12, which would become 13 pi over 12. So when we simplify this, and the formula to simplify from radians to degrees will be, don't forget the pi over here, times 180 over pi. So we cancel out the pi's, and we just have to simplify. 13 times 180 divided by 12, which should equal 195, which would be angle option C. Let's move on to question 23. A certain town has an area of 4.36 square miles. What is the area in square yards of this town? So 1 mile is 1,760 yards. So we just need to do 4.36 times 1760, because each mile has 1,760 yards. So 1,760 times 4.36 would just be around 7673.6, which is closest value option B.